My name is Elias, and for the past 10 years I've been a park ranger in the Maasai Mara. People come from all over the world to witness the spectacle of this land, the great migrations, the hunting prides, the endless horizon. But what they don't see are the quiet moments, the daily dramas that unfold far from the tourist trails. A ranger's job isn't just about protecting the animals, it's about understanding them, seeing the stories written in the dust. And believe me, some stories defy all reason. This is one of them. The air was thick and heavy, a suffocating blanket of heat that promised a storm, but delivered only sweat. It was the peak of the dry season, and every animal was on edge. The savanna grass was a brittle yellow carpet, and the riverbeds were cracked veins of dried mud. I was on a routine patrol, my Land Rover kicking up dust that swirled like ghosts behind me. My mind was on the drought, on the desperate scramble for water, when a sound, thin and reedy, cut through the quiet. It was a cry of pure, unadulterated terror. I killed the engine and listened. It was coming from a rocky outcrop, a place we rangers call the Hyenas' den. The sound was small, not a lion's roar or an elephant's trumpet, but something high-pitched and desperate, a child's wail. I grabbed my binoculars and moved with purpose, the sound growing louder with every step. My heart sank when I crested the rise. There, in a shallow crevice, was a sight that made no sense. A baby gorilla, no more than a few months old, was huddled against the rock. He was tiny, his fur a damp mess from fear, his eyes wide and black. Surrounding him, a semicircle of death, 6, maybe 7 hyenas, their sloped shoulders tense, their ears flicking, their low, chattering growls a symphony of menace. They were closing in, a game of psychological torture before the kill. The gorilla's mother was nowhere to be seen. He was alone, lost and terrified. I felt a surge of helplessness. My job is to observe, to protect from poachers, but interfering in a natural predation event, it's a line you don't cross. I had to let nature take its course. It was a brutal rule, but a necessary one. I gripped my binoculars so hard my knuckles turned white. I couldn't bear to watch. Then, a low rumble vibrated through the ground. It wasn't a hyena's laugh or a rumble of thunder. It was the kind of sound that commands respect, that makes everything else fall silent. Out of the tall, dry grass emerged a massive male lion. I knew him. He was a solitary male, a loner we called Django. His mane was a dark, magnificent halo, a testament to his strength and age. He wasn't part of a pride, he hunted alone, a ghost of the savannah. The hyenas saw him, and their chattering stopped, their heads turned, their attention shifting from the helpless meal to the king of the plains. They didn't run, not immediately. They squared their shoulders, a challenge in their eyes, but their body language was coiled with caution. The impossible happened next. Django didn't roar. He didn't charge. He simply walked, with a slow, deliberate grace, and positioned himself directly between the hyenas and the baby gorilla. He stood his ground, a silent, immovable wall of muscle and amber eyes. He didn't even look at the hyenas. His gaze was fixed on the little gorilla. It was a stare-down that lasted an eternity. The hyenas, sensing a dominance they couldn't hope to challenge, finally broke. One by one they turned and slunk away, their tails between their legs, their laughter replaced by frustrated snorts. I was frozen. The air was still. Django finally looked down. The baby gorilla, still trembling, whimpered, and the unthinkable happened. The lion, a creature of pure predatory instinct, gently nudged the small primate with his nose, a soft, almost paternal gesture. The baby gorilla, in a moment of unimaginable courage, or maybe just pure instinctual need, reached out and grabbed onto the tuft of fur on the lion's paw. Django didn't pull away. He just stood there, motionless, his amber eyes watching over his small, impossible charge. I knew right then my life and my understanding of the wild would never be the same. This is just the beginning of the story. I'll show you what happened next, what I witnessed in the following weeks, and how this unlikely pair became a family. If you want to see the rest of this incredible story, please subscribe to our channel. And remember, while this is a deeply moving story of nature, it is a fictional narrative inspired by the magic of this land. The first thing I did was call my mentor, an old ranger named Mz. He's seen more of the Mara than anyone I know. I told him what I saw and he just listened. The the silence on the other end of the line stretching thin. He told me, "Elias, in my 50 years, I have seen a lion take down an elephant. I have seen a leopard feed a lost cub. But this is beyond all logic." He was skeptical, of course, but the tremor in my voice must have convinced him. He told me to document everything, to be a ghost, a witness to the impossible. So I did. For the next few weeks, my life revolved around them. I placed trail cameras, camouflaged and hidden, along the paths they took. From a safe distance, I used my binoculars to watch their daily routine. The baby gorilla, whom I had taken to calling Coco, had a new family. His protector was a lion, a solitary, fearsome predator named Django. Their relationship wasn't just a truce, it was a bond. Django didn't hunt near Coco. He'd leave him in a safe, rocky hollow while he went to find prey. When he returned, his roar wasn't a call to hunt, but a soft rumble that Coco would answer with a tiny, chittering sound. I saw Coco climbing on Django's back, a tiny shadow on a golden canvas. I saw Django nudge him towards a small puddle of water in a rock basin, waiting patiently as the little gorilla drank. I filmed them sharing moments of quiet repose, Django dozing with one eye open, Coco curled up against his flank, a living shield. The bond wasn't just physical, it was emotional. I could see it in the way Django's amber eyes softened when he looked at Coco, and in the way Coco's little chest would swell with a sound of contentment when Django returned. They were a family. But a family is a fragile thing in the wild, and the Mara always finds a way to test fragility. My colleagues thought I was mad. I'd try to explain, and they'd just shake their heads, saying it was a trick of the light, a momentary fluke. They told me I needed to capture the gorilla and get him to a sanctuary. But how could I? To rip Coco from Django would be to tear him from the only family he knew. I was torn. My duty was to protect the animals, but was protection defined by human rules or by the unwritten laws of the wild? The question was answered for me. One morning, the air wasn't just hot, it was charged with tension. Another lion, a young male, a nomadic hunter, had entered Django's territory. He was bigger, stronger, and he was hungry. I saw him from a distance, stalking through the tall grass. He sensed Django's presence and gave a full-throated roar, a challenge. Django's response was immediate and fierce. He moved to place himself between the intruder and the rocky outcrop where Coco was hiding. The two lions circled each other, their roars shaking the ground, their tails lashing the air like whips. The battle was a brutal dance of muscle and claws, of raw, primal power. I watched, helpless, my heart pounding in my chest. The new lion was relentless, but Django fought with a ferocity I'd never seen from him before. He wasn't just fighting for his territory, he was fighting for his charge. He was fighting for Coco. Django, though older, was a seasoned fighter. He managed to drive the other lion back, but not without consequence. He was bleeding from a deep gash on his shoulder. The new lion, defeated but not dead, slunk away. When the coast was clear, Django limped back to the outcrop. Coco, who had been shivering in a small crevice, emerged. He didn't go to Django's wound. He just reached out a hand, and with a soft, careful touch, placed it on Django's cheek. It was a gesture of thanks, of care, of love. It was at that moment that I knew. I couldn't just observe anymore. I had to do something. I had to find a way to protect this impossible family. The decision was clear. Maasai and I sat over a fire, the smoke stinging our eyes, the embers glowing in the twilight. He told me about a hidden valley, a place he knew of from his youth. A lush, isolated patch of land, fed by an underground spring, surrounded by impassable cliffs. It was a perfect haven, a place where Django and Coco could live in peace, away from predators, and more importantly, away from us. The journey was a risk, both for them and for me. I had to guide them, a silent shepherd for a lion and a gorilla. I drove my Land Rover ahead, leaving subtle markers, a broken branch here, a pile of stones there. I had to anticipate their movements, their needs. I left small buckets of water at night, knowing they were thirsty from Django's fight. I watched from a distance as Django, with his limp, led Coco with a patient, tired grace. The journey was difficult. The terrain was unforgiving. We had to cross a river where hippos lurked, a tense moment where Django had to roar to clear the way. his body still healing. We avoided a herd of elephants by hiding in a cluster of acacia trees. With every obstacle, I saw their bond deepen. Coco would cling to Django's back during the river crossing, his little arms tight around the lion's neck. Django would move slowly, carefully, his big paws navigating the treacherous riverbed. Finally, after 3 long days, we reached it, the valley. It was a verdant oasis, a world away from the dry plains we had left behind. The spring gurgled, the trees were heavy with fruit, and the air was alive with the sound of birds. I watched from a high ridge as they entered. Django limped to the spring and drank deeply, his body finally relaxing. Coco, seeing the bounty of the land, went to a nearby tree and began to pick fruit, a chittering sound of joy escaping his lips. Django lay down under the shade of a large baobab tree, his chest rising and falling with deep, contented breaths. Coco, his belly full, walked over and curled up against the lion's side, a tiny, dark ball of fur against the golden mane. I watched them, a profound sense of peace settling over me. They were home. They were safe. My journey with them changed me. I came here a ranger, a protector of the wild, but I left as a witness to its deepest magic. I learned that the natural world is not a collection of rules, but a symphony of unexpected connections. Sometimes the most important thing we can do is to step back, to trust in the wisdom of the wild, and to let a family, no matter how unusual, find its way home. I still go to that ridge sometimes. I never go down into the valley. I don't need to. I just watch from a distance, a silent guardian of an impossible family. And I know somewhere out there, on the vast, beautiful plains of Kenya, there's a lion and a gorilla together, living a story that no one would ever believe. Thank you for watching. If you were moved by this story and want to see more incredible narratives from the natural world, please subscribe to our channel. And remember, while this is a fictional tale, the spirit of the Maasai Mara and its unforgettable creatures is very real.